All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, who remembers Dwayne Youngblood coming out on an interview talking about how TD Jakes tried to mess with him years ago? And we were saying, like, well, why doesn't TD Jakes sue these individuals who are saying these things? Well, he did. He sued him for defamation. But the story gets deep, ladies and gentlemen. We'll play a clip of this young lady who goes over the lawsuit and everything within it right now and exactly where they are at as far as this whole case right now.
I'm not a lawyer, but y'all remember the TD Jakes lawsuit? The one that he filed back in like November of 2024 against another pastor? The short recap is TD Jakes filed a defamation lawsuit against this man whose name is Dwayne Youngblood because of an interview that Youngblood did with Larry Reed Live. In the interview, Youngblood said that when he was a teenager, TD Jakes tried to kiss him and then later said he wanted to have an intimate relationship with him. Are you remembering now? Well, there's been some updates, so let's talk about it. First of all, Youngblood's attorney for this case is Tyrone Blackburn. And if you're trying to figure out where do you know the name Tyrone Blackburn, it's probably from one of Diddy's cases. Tyrone Blackburn represents a few of the plaintiffs who are suing Diddy, and in particular, he represents the producer Rodney Lil Rod Jones. And Lil Rod's lawsuit was the lawsuit that had all of those footnotes with the ridiculous hints, like the one that said Philadelphia rapper that dated Nicki Minaj. Okay, so now that Blackburn is on board, he, on behalf of Youngblood, has filed a response to TD Jakes' defamation lawsuit. And that response was a motion to dismiss based on Pennsylvania's anti-SLAPP statute. Youngblood lives in Pennsylvania. That's why it was filed there. So this anti-SLAPP statute is a law that was created to basically protect free speech. The law says that speech or expressions made regarding matters of public concerns or public importance are protected or immune from being the reason that someone sues you. And if a person does sue you over this protected free speech and you can show that it's protected free speech, the burden then shifts to the plaintiff or the person who filed the lawsuit to prove to the court why this lawsuit is not based on free speech. In the end, if the judge agrees in saying that the lawsuit was based on free speech, the plaintiff then has to pay all of your attorney and court fees. Hopefully you followed that, because I say all of that to say that Dwayne Youngblood says that this lawsuit should be dismissed because it is based on free speech. He goes into more detail and gives three specific reasons. First, he says that although he did mention the incident with TD Jakes in the interview that he did with Larry Reed Live, it was only a small portion of a very long interview where he was highlighting things like systemic abuse, institutional accountability, and the misuse of power by religious leaders, all of which, according to him, are matters of public concern and importance. Secondly, Youngblood says that this should be dismissed because TD Jakes is a public figure, and in order for celebrities or public figures to sue for defamation, they have to prove that the defamation was done with malice. Malice meaning the person had to defame them knowing or likely knowing that what they were saying was not true, and they still chose to say it anyway. Think like Cardi B and Tasha K. So in this particular instance, Youngblood says that not only is what he said actually true, but he is providing affidavits from 5 different people who all say that Youngblood told them the same story and has kept that same story for the last 40 years. And the
40 years? I mean, at this point, this guy is saying the same thing over and over again for 40 years. He ain't tired yet, and he's lying. Something's off.
last reason that Youngblood says that this should be dismissed is because he says people talking about TD Jakes' alleged misconduct is not new news. The motion says that social media platforms and investigative reports have brought to light allegations of grooming, abuse, and exploitation involving TD Jakes, and then the lawsuit includes a number of articles and references to TikTok to support this claim. The doc specifically says it is clear from these articles that plaintiff Jakes has been the topic of discussion in the public for several years prior to his interview with Larry Reed on October 28, 2024. So for those reasons and a few others, Youngblood says that this lawsuit should be dismissed and he wants TD Jakes to pay all of his attorney and court fees. And then before he goes, he requests that the court allow him the ability to file a cross complaint against TD Jakes and TD Jakes' son, Jermaine Jakes. Y'all knew TD Jakes had a son? For a quote, social media threat that was sent by Jermaine Jakes on November 3rd, 2024. Social media threat. According to Dwayne Youngblood, shortly after he did his interview with Larry Reed Live, Jermaine Jakes sent him a threatening DM.
Who knew TD Jakes had a son? Oh, actually, yeah, but didn't his sons come from his wife? that he married, right? She already had 2 kids. So his son wrote him and said, "You might be in dangerous territory, Dwayne. Just be careful. Just be careful. Pop's strong out here. All right? He knows people that knows people. All right? Come on, guys. If you are somebody who is TD Jake's son and you know the type of attention TD Jakes already gets, why would you write somebody, especially from your own page? You're causing attention, especially if it's false. If something's false, you don't need to do things like this. You don't need to warn people and threaten them. You don't.
Which stated, quote, "You might be in dangerous territory, Dwayne, ... Just be careful, ... So Dwayne Youngblood wants to sue TD Jakes and his son for intentional infliction of emotional distress and harassment regarding this alleged threat. Oh, and the last thing is, remember I told you that Dwayne included affidavits from people who say Dwayne told them this same story for the last 40 years? One of those affidavits was from Dwayne's older brother, whose name is Richard Youngblood. And Richard claims that TD Jakes tried to assault him too.
Boy, oh boy.
In Richard's affidavit, he says, quote, "He, being Jake, secured a room with 2 beds in it, and we went to the room for the night. That night, while I was laying in my bed, I felt Elder Jakes climb into my bed. He pressed his body against mine and asked, 'Youngblood, do you feel that?' As he was pressing it against my backside. I, meaning Richard, got up out of the bed in complete shock as he also got up from the opposite side and met me. He grabbed me by my arms and pulled me to him and started trying to kiss me. At this point, I cannot believe what is happening to me." Okay, so that's all on Youngblood's motion to dismiss. But after he filed it, TD Jakes responded. A 562-page package response. And did I read it? Yes. So here we go. Let's talk about it. Jakes' response starts off saying that the allegations Dwayne made about him are completely false, and he highlights that shortly after Dwayne's interview on Larry Reed Live, Dwayne sent him a $6 million demand letter. I don't think I've ever seen a demand letter because I don't have enough money for anybody to demand anything from me. So if you also haven't seen one, here you go. The letter says, quote, "The purpose of this letter is to encourage the parties to resolve this matter quickly and privately. For settlement purposes only, the opening settlement demand is $6 million.
Now understand this, guys. I believe Cassie did the same thing with Diddy for $50 million, or somewhere up there in those numbers. And he said, "Nah, we ain't doing that." But a lot of stuff could have got ignored if he would have just paid the money. See, what happens with a lot of different people is who end up in this place where they're rich and famous, pride gets to them. And when somebody's asking for their money, they're like, "Nah, you out of your mind. You think you're going to have something, have any of this? You're going to get nothing, not a penny from me." And they're wrong. They're wrong. They're in a space where they did wrong, yet pride will get them and it'll be the fall of them. Instead of just paying it out. Like, all right, here, just be quiet. Please, don't say nothing. Please.
The demand is negotiable. The letter goes on to say, "You have 7 days from the date of this letter to accept this offer of private resolution. If we do not hear from you by November 23rd, 2024, we will view your silence as a rejection of this offer and proceed to file suit without delay." So he was threatening his own lawsuit. Also, to put this in context of a timeline, as we just read, November 23rd was the deadline for TD Jakes to either pay the $6 million or Dwayne Youngblood was going to file a lawsuit. November 24th, the next day, was a Sunday, and that's the day TD Jakes had that health issue on stage at church. Y'all remember that? And then the following day, November 25th, is the day TD Jakes filed his defamation lawsuit against Youngblood. Okay, now back to the response. So TD Jakes says that Youngblood's anti-SLAPP motion to dismiss should be denied because, number one, the law isn't even in effect yet. He says until the Pennsylvania Supreme Court acts to create anti-SLAPP motions, they do not exist in Pennsylvania. And even if they were in effect, TD Jakes and his attorneys say that they wouldn't apply in federal court. Apparently, there are some federal rules of civil procedure that conflict with the anti-SLAPP statutes, and therefore the federal rules would override in this case, which was filed in a federal court. And then on top of all of that, TD Jakes and his attorneys say that if the anti-SLAPP rules did apply, this isn't an anti-SLAPP case. They say it's a legitimate case and they have met the requirements required for it to proceed. Jakes' response goes on to say that Youngblood is a known liar, and they pull a 2015 quote from a judge who presided over one of Dwayne Youngblood's probation violation hearings. Did I mention that part? Dwayne Youngblood is a convicted felon and registered offender. He has been convicted of assault, the corruption of minors, among other things, and some of his victims include children that he pastored and mentored while he was the pastor of a church. At that hearing,
Oh my Lord. Wow. That is, oh, that's just terrible. You know, this is my first time watching a lot of this as well. I seen like a couple minutes at the beginning of her talking, but I wanted to watch it with you guys and get a reaction as well with you guys. So Dwayne Wade is a offender. Wow. You know what could be sad about this whole situation is if he was a victim become predator. Even when it comes to TD Jakes, you know, nothing is set in stone yet. But I pray that, you know, justice is served in whatever way that goes. May his name be clean, you know, and or may he do the time or pay the money that he needs to, you know, pay. May justice be served either way. But as far as like Dwayne, like, man, if that's true, then he was a victim that became a predator. You know, and I can't even imagine TD Jake's story if it happens to be true that he actually did all this.
the judge said, quote, Youngblood has lied and has scammed, and he has conned me from the day he stood in front of me 7 years earlier. I have been misled. I have been deceived. I have been actually lied to by Youngblood. My goodness. TD Jakes also highlights that Dwayne Youngblood claims that their interaction happened in 1986. Specifically, Youngblood claims that TD Jakes told him that if Youngblood performs favors for him when he's in town, Jakes would take care of him for the rest of his life. But TD Jakes says there's no way that that could have happened because in the 1980s, he says he was living in crushing poverty and could barely afford to take care of himself, so there's no way he was offering to take care of Dwayne Youngblood. TD Jakes also says that these are not just false statements, but they were made maliciously, which again is a requirement when public figures file defamation lawsuits. Jakes says that Youngblood hatched a plan with Larry Reid Live to essentially get money from him and harm his reputation. And then toward the end of the response, TD Jakes says that cross complaint that Youngblood says he wants to file, he can't even do that because a cross complaint can only be brought against a defendant or co-defendants in a case. And because TD Jakes' son is not listed as a co-defendant on this case, it wouldn't be considered a cross complaint. And in addition to that, based on Youngblood's version of this DM exchange, he never includes TD Jakes as having been involved. So he's saying, you wouldn't be suing me and you can't sue my son because he's not a defendant, so this isn't a cross complaint. Now, with this response, TD Jakes includes some exhibits and affidavits of his own. There's also an affidavit from TD Jakes' son, reference to that alleged threatening DM. Jermaine says, quote, on the afternoon of November 3rd, 2024, I was looking at my social media feed and noticed an advertisement promoted by the Larry Reid Live Show podcast for an interview with Dwayne Youngblood, labeled The Abused Becomes the Abuser. I was immediately concerned that Dwayne Youngblood might be putting himself in harm's way unknowingly by involving himself with Larry Reid. Based on my personal experience, Larry Reid's podcasts create controversy that can be very destructive to people's lives. Certainly, such has been my experience with Reid's podcasting, targeting and attacking my father over a period of years. That is the context in which on November 3rd, 2024, I sent a message to Dwayne Youngblood.
Oh, so TD Jake's son wasn't even going off of the fact that Dwayne Youngblood was talking about his father. He was saying because he was getting involved with Larry Reid that it could be dangerous.
Was a cautionary warning to someone I know, Dwayne, to avoid Larry because my experience is that Larry Reid distorts facts and is not truthful. I had not talked to or seen Dwayne in over 30 years.
Wow.
However, I knew Dwayne from growing up in West Virginia. When I sent the message to Dwayne, I had not seen the podcast, so I did not know what had been stated or that my father was the focus of the discussion. There was no reason for me to say anything that I intended or meant to be threatening. Dwayne responded to my message practically immediately, stating that he received the message and, quote, it was noted. Child, that was a lot. The exhibits attached to the response also includes Youngblood's entire criminal history, his mugshots and transcripts from some of his criminal hearings. There's also mugshots and criminal documentation for some of the people who provided affidavits for Youngblood, because Jake says that they are convicted felons as well, and screenshots of Youngblood's website, because according to Jake's, Youngblood did this because he had recently gotten out of jail, so he needed a story to transition him from this convicted felon to this inspirational speaker about abuse. So that's where we are. That's the latest on this lawsuit. It'll be up to the judge to determine if TD Jakes' lawsuit can continue on or not. And it feels like it's gonna keep getting messy. What y'all think?
Guys, I can say this, right? Knowing all that stuff that we just found out about Dwayne Youngblood, this whole situation could be either way. But I pray for light to truly come on whatever's going on. And this is just one case. There's a couple different individuals who have filed different lawsuits against TD Jakes, but with those individuals, I've never seen him, sue for defamation. I've never seen him really come back, or go against. So could this be false, but those be true? May justice be served, with whatever way it goes. Clearly, these individuals are clearly Dwayne Wade, because we know for a fact that he's an offender. Something happened to him when he was a kid, man. Something happened to him, and his soul got dark and blemished, and he started operating out of different ways that happened to him. And it's sad when that happens. It truly is. And if it really happened from TD, may justice be served. You get what I'm saying? May the truth come out this year on every individual who may have done harm and they are in leadership positions. May the truth really come out. Like, seriously, guys, there's different people who are hurting, different people who have been through things from different people who are in leadership positions, and they're just living their regular life. La, 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 la. Come on, fam, let's go on vacation. Yet they took advantage of little boys 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 15 years ago. Took advantage of little boys, took their pants down, took advantage of them. I don't care how long the time has gone. If that is true, those people need to be arrested. No doubt about it. Not just pay money, but they need to be arrested, and justice needs to be served. Amen. So may the Lord bring light to the situation, and may justice be served in whatever way that goes, whether it's clearing the name of TD Jakes or arresting them. Amen. Hallelujah. May the truth set us all free, which is Christ. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about the whole situation. God bless you.